Speaking of amazing leaders, I now have another one to introduce to you, and this is Hugh Mina. And Hugh is principal of St Joseph's Galway. But rather than me telling you his story, I'm going to hand you over now to Hugh to tell you his tale. Okay, Hugh?
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to say congratulations to Karine there too, on an excellent presentation there too. Really inspiring, and I think there'll be a lot for everyone to take from that. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon, no matter where you are, and I hope that you're all keeping safe and well. My intention here this afternoon is basically to just talk you through the journey that we have had, in particular over these last 12 weeks. On the slide you see on the screen there, you'll see obviously I'm the principal of St Joseph's Primary School in Galway. You'll see that I have put up the school's social media accounts, and I also have up my own social Twitter feed and email. So if you have any questions after this, or you'd like to find out a little bit more, please feel free to contact me on any of those addresses. So to really, I suppose, the starting point here, I suppose, is the context. And as in anything in school and even in life, context is everything. Because obviously, you know, everything will work somewhere, but nothing works everywhere. So for us on this journey we've had with teams, and teams is primarily what I'm going to speak about with you all this afternoon. We started really in August past. So in August 2019, we had our first staff training on teams. And we decided, I suppose, towards the end of the last school year that we needed to do something in terms of our e-learning provision. So Teams was the one we decided to use, and we decided we were going to use that initially with the staff. So our main aim for this year was to get the staff on a team and building capacity with the staff as participants rather than having to lead their own teams. We did some staff development in November 2019. In January, the Senko led a little bit of staff development too in using OneNote and Teams, which is again another very powerful tool. So using these tools to do real genuine collaboration between staff to reduce paperwork, to reduce workload, and make the school run that a little bit more efficiently, especially in meeting the needs of all the kids. And then of course, my plan was to roll this out over the next 3 years, with us starting in August 2019, but on the 13th of March was the last day we actually had all the children on site. So within a week, so the following Friday, the 20th of March, following the guidance and advice from the department, we had learning packs ready to go for all the classes, so physical learning packs and resources, but we had also then set up a team for each of the classes. So we've been using teams from P1 through to primary 7, and I'm going to show you some examples of how that actually works then, and some screenshots of some of the brilliant practice that the staff have been doing in the school. So Friday the 20th of March, parents collected the learning packs, they collected the guides for getting onto teams, and I think it's really important to remember the staff had not been using their own teams at this point. They had been participants in the staff team, so the staff very quickly had to upskill to manage their own team and the pupils. I'm in all the teams as well to provide additional support where it's needed. But from a standing start on the 20th of March, by the following Monday, we had 54% of the pupils online on Teams, so about 124 kids out of 231. By the end of the first week, that number climbed up to 82% of the kids, so 189 kids in the school. And then by the following Friday, we had 92% of all the children in the school from primary 1 through to primary 7 on as daily active users on Teams, so 212 out of the 231. The other 8% there, when we contacted parents to see if they're having issues, that was down to the sharing of devices, difficulties with broadband, and so what we've been doing since then is trying to map out how we can support them if and when this continues in September. As of this morning, we've maintained that a 90% daily usage across all the kids in the school from primary 1 through to primary 7. So with 208 pupils on average active every single day in the school. So if you had told me that on the 13th of March, I would have bitten your hand off to have numbers like that. So we're delighted with how well it has went. What I'm going to chat about here this afternoon is what I see as the Teams Teacher Toolkit. I know Karine has touched on some of these already. I Donna could quite easily do a training session on each of these features, so I'm just going to touch on them and show you how we've been using them in the school. So the main things for me, and the reason we use Teams, was that it provides everything that you need. So rather than have a fragmented approach, multiple different sign-in usernames for kids to remember for different platforms, the children sign into Teams and then they have access to all this, and likewise for the teachers. So the main things for me: channels, assignments, insights, forms, Flipgrid, OneNote, Sway, and Immersive Reader. So the first thing for us primarily was about getting everything set up and make sure that the children and the staff and the parents could access it. So this is what it looks like on the home screen. You can see here all the teams we have in the school. So we have a team for each class from primary 1 through to primary 7. We have a staff team, which is the one we started with this year. There's a governors team as well, because the governors, now we have our governors meetings through Meet Nows, which is basically the equivalent of Zoom meetings. And you can see there also at the bottom right, part of Donna's Learning Tools community on C2K. So I will make reference to this slide throughout here. So that's just to give you an oversight. So we have a team for each class in the school. We also have a staff team, governors teams, and non-teaching staff teams. So to get everyone on, we thought about this in the most simple terms. Pupils weren't in school, so we weren't going to be able to do it with them in the class. So we set up an area in the school website under the pupil area. And I'll share obviously the details, well, the links obviously on the home screen for the St. Joseph's Primary School website. But under pupil area and online learning, we set up a parent guide for getting the children set up for online learning at home. And this was simply to do with Teams. So we shared the usernames through an Excel spreadsheet that was password protected for each of the children. So the parents would go on, find the child's username themselves. They then would go on and reset the password through a link on the website here too. So again, we just talked this through with the parents in the most simplest terms possible. And then thirdly, point number 3 here, we created bespoke designs or simple guides for how parents can sign in, whether they're using a web browser or whether they're using a mobile device, a laptop. And that's the lovely thing about Teams. It doesn't matter what device you're using, you will be able to get in and sign in. These are freely available on the website, and if anyone wants a copy of them to tweak them or alter them, I'll happily share them with them. So this was the guide for signing into Microsoft Teams through the school website. And this is the other one: sign into Microsoft Teams using an iPhone, iPad, Android, or a mobile device. And it's all fairly straightforward stuff when you become familiar with it. But for parents who are new to it, for children who are new to it as well, we thought this was the most effective way. And I suppose that's borne out by the numbers that we have online. The one thing I'd highlight here is point number 4 in this particular guide. For parents maybe or a family who's using one device, you can actually add multiple accounts to one device. So I simply highlight in here in point number 4 how the parents or pupils can add multiple accounts, and they can flip between the accounts depending on who needs to be on at what time. We also decided to put a draft policy in place, which has now been adopted and ratified. So we consulted with the parents and with the staff and with the governors and the pupils about and we kind of thought about this in a very simple way. One, obviously child protection. Whatever we were going to do, it has to be in line with child protection regulations, but also setting realistic expectations about what we were going to be able to achieve. Given the fears that a second outbreak may happen in November, this policy is in place and hopefully will be in place to account for any situation like this in future. And it was developed with a school in New Zealand too, so there's many minds put towards this. And as I said at the start, if anyone wants a copy of that, feel free to contact me and I'll share that with you. The one thing I noticed about Corinne's presentation, she talked a lot about communication. And as anyone in school knows, one of the most important things in a school is the relationships, and those relationships at all levels between the pupils, and the teachers, among teachers themselves, at all levels is so important. And communication is key to that. And what I love about Teams is that it allows you to keep that communication and those relationships going in the most trying of circumstances with children learning at home. The main ways we do that is through channels and Meet Now. And I say Meet Now is basically another word for Zoom meetings or video conferencing. So the channels, how we use the channels, this is an example of our staff team. So you can see down the left hand side, we have all the different channels mapped out aligned with the curriculum. But we also then on the right hand side, you can see things that have been posted into the general channel for the staff. So you can see there are their staff meetings, ISEF review with coordinators, and coordinators can post different things in there as well. The one thing I bring to your attention here is, and what I like about Teams is the fact that everything is made so easy, because everything, if you want, you can record the meetings. We made it a rule of practice in our policy that all meetings with children are recorded for child protection. And we've also done that practice in the likes of our ISEF review meetings, because that's a brilliant evidence base to have when you're working on a shared document, but then those discussions that the coordinators have around it. So you can see here, the first meeting was 58 minutes, second meeting we had was 52, the most recent one was 30 minutes, and there's a copy there for the coordinators to access. And again, this is all tied down to particular channels for particular staff. So there's an array of security settings that can be used and tweaked as needed. This is an example of what a staff meeting then looks like. This is, and again, very simple. I simply had an agenda typed up on a Word document, shared it with the rest of the staff, and whether they were on a laptop or a mobile device, they were able to follow that staff meeting. We had our discussion. I was able to do the minutes of the meeting on the document live as we were going through it. And again, it's that ease of it, again, keeps that communication going between staff. And again, the meeting is available then for anyone to view after if a staff member is unable to make that meeting. Another thing about the channels, it allows, and again, coming back to communication, Teams will let you communicate synchronously, asynchronously, through text, through live video, through videos that are posted and recorded for children to review later. Whatever way you want to do it, what I like about it and what our staff are finding is that this will adapt to your particular needs. This is an example, for example, of a simple digital, of a text-based assembly where I kind of point out accelerated reader, athletic runners, pointers towards any announcements. But what the really nice feature about this, and you know, for anyone who's working across multiple teams, if you've got 3-phase intake in a school, this little icon up here, where you see alongside my name, the date and the time, these two wee boxes are what we call a cross post. So if you think back to that first slide where I showed all the different teams that we have, so that includes the primary 1 through to primary 7, governor, staff, and so on. When you click that, you can select all the different teams you want to post a message out to. So I could be creating a message for the primary set for all the school, create it in primary 7. I simply select all the teams, and that message will push out to all the teams. And it's that ease of access, those streamline the communication and being able to contact and reach out to everyone, which for me makes it work so well. The best way we've used that so far is for our live assemblies. I can drop a link to all the teams 5 minutes before a live assembly starts, and then everyone, all the children and the families can tune in. We have 149 families at St. Joseph's Primary School, Galway. For our first digital assembly, we had 120 families tune in, and the number was even higher at our last one. So it's a lovely way of communicating with all the children, with all the families in these difficult times. And again, a really simple way of doing it is just by cross-posting to all the teams. I'm going to have a look now at some other examples of how staff are using it in the school. This is Miss McGarry, our primary 2 foundation stage teacher here. And again, we have a general rule in this. We agreed as a staff after the first week, what are the structures we're going to have. So the teachers will post the activities for the kids at 9:30 every morning. And then they will be on again at 1:30 in the afternoon to correct any of the work that the children have submitted, and then they'll sign off at 2:30 with a message to the kids. So it bookends the day for the kids. It gives them some sense of structure, and it keeps everyone right. But I'm going to highlight in particular in this post from Miss McGarry is the fact that she makes reference to pages 25 and 26 of their literacy pack. So whenever we were doing this at the start, the foundation stage thought it would be a good idea, and it has worked out so well. They photocopied their learning packs, numbered all the pages, so whenever they're posting anything in the morning, they make reference to the pages of the learning packs. So there's no need for printers at home. Parents are panicking about trying, right, am I going to have to get this printed off and take it home? The kids have everything they need for learning at home. And I'm going to show you in just a moment of how the kids share that work then with the teachers. this is a lovely example here again of our two primary one teachers, Mrs. Kearns and Miss Cuss, about how they focus on the pastoral side of thing, which is what our children really, I think, are missing out, that sense of connection and relationship with the children. But also even simple things like sharing links. If you find a link to a website that you like, or a YouTube video that you like, you can post it out here on this and the kids can comment down below. The other thing we've been doing in the school, which has been really effective, is live lessons. So we have 4 teachers who are doing live lessons at the minute. So we've got primary 1, primary 4, primary 6 and primary 7. This is an example of the primary 1 live lesson, and what's nice about this, for anyone who misses the lesson, the link can be posted into the channel. So for maybe a child whose parent is at work or they can't get onto the device at that time, or there's an older child who's post-primary or up to school who needs to be on at a certain time, the children can then go back and watch that lesson. Or if they're in the lesson themselves and their mother or father, whoever is working and comes home, they can then show them that lesson when they get home. So this is simply a screen grab from this particular lesson. And again, you can see the kids there all along the bottom. Whenever they're there, they can see each other's faces. And again, this is all in our policy and agreed in our policy. The lesson's recorded for child protection, but the reaction that the kids get from seeing their teacher and having the teacher read a story to them, doing some live teach and learn, is just fantastic. It'll never beat having them in the room, but it's definitely it's a close second. This is a primary 1 example, so and this is included here to show that this can be done in any class. And again, and all the features and everything you need are here in Teams to help you do that. From a management point of view, we do our governors meetings on Teams as well. So this governors meeting, for example, you can see what came in at a not too bad, a fairly respectable time of 2 hours, just shy of 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's not a bad evening's work for governors. But again, everything is here. And again, if anyone wants any more advice on that, feel free to contact me. Another way here, another thing that I like personally about is how you can integrate other features, which leads me into Flipgrid. This was an announcement I posted earlier in the week about the primary 7 leavers ceremony that we're going to have next Friday. I included a wee video to Flipgrid, which was me recording the video, just get that message out there to tell them that, look, we're thinking about them and we're making these arrangements for them next week. I'm not going to play that video just at the moment because, again, it's just to show you whenever the kids clicking that link or clicking the Flipgrid tab along the top, they can play that video and they see that. It's all streamed. You're not worrying about children having to download a video or having a copy of a video. It's all streamed online. And again, obviously, your consideration around that is always going to be broadband and internet connection, but it's a really good way of connecting with other learners. So which brings me into Flipgrid. And again, I'm going to quickly show you some of the brilliant practice that I've observed in my own school to date. So Flipgrid basically is a way of communicating in a way that the children are all very familiar with, very comfortable with, and it comes back to the whole idea of Teams. It's a secure, gardened area. The children sign into Teams with their C2K username and password. They sign into Flipgrid with the same C2K username and password. Everything is secure. Everything is protected with GDPR, but it's an environment that the kids really enjoy. And it's massive, I feel, for the pastoral side of things. So this was an example of one that we did on the 6th of April, 2 weeks into remote learning. And we had a discussion as a staff about how were things going. And we want to get the point of view of the kids. So I pushed this out to the primary 7s about a simple question: what's working well? What type of learning activities are you enjoying? And secondly, how can we make this even better? And the kids all responded to that because, again, very natural to them. It's the world they're in. And again, it's been a real revelation for us. This is an example of one of the Key Stage 2 classes completing a fairly simple Flipgrid task. Does listening to music help you think? Simple talking and listening question was posted out. They all record their videos. You can see there's, at this stage, there was 19 responses. There's over 1,200 views of this. 3.5 hours time on this between them all. So very simple, very effective, and a very powerful tool as well. Just to show how powerful it has been for us on our remote learning journey, I had done very little with Flipgrid up until the remote learning journey started 12 weeks ago. In the last 12 weeks, the children have created over 400 videos. with close to 37,000 views during that journey. So that has really taken off, and that's only in Key Stage 2 at the moment. So there's massive potential there. The kids understand it, they get it, and again, it's all safe, secure, and moderated. The teachers have also taken to this kind of sandbox approach in teams whereby you can use and alter and create as you need. So we have live lessons going on. We have teachers posting messages in the morning and going back in the evening through asynchronous methods. But you also have a little bit of flipped learning going on. So this is an example of our primary 6 teacher, Mr. Kelly, who does multiple live lessons a week, focused on literacy and numeracy, but has been playing about with Flipgrid to do, again, do the flipped classroom idea, whereby he models going through a numeracy assessment. He does models how to answer a problem or answer a question, and the kids can access that through Flipgrid at any time. They can jump to the questions that they had difficulty with, and again, it's there forever. So next year, if he's doing a similar assessment, that video he can share with the class. And there's a simple screen grab of this is question the third. I think this is a third video. Questions 31 to 40. There's the date and the time that he put it up. He was doing this in one of the other powerful tools called OneNote, which again Donna could do a full training session on. Incredibly powerful tool. Think, explain everything, active, inspire, all those tools. That's what OneNote does. But again, it's all under one hood here. It's all under one roof. And again, OneNote, just to mention it, because again, I could talk all day about OneNote because it's just an incredibly powerful tool. So as I said earlier, think about explain everything, think about active inspire. And if you're using explain everything and active inspire or whatever else it is, bear in mind that will work seamlessly with Teams as well. You just have to share your screen. So all the resources you have sitting ready, you can actually still just use them and push them out like this through a live lesson. Sway, I'm going to mention Kareen's example. I thought were just fantastic and a brilliant way of communicating and pulling together all the good work that's going on in school. We've been using it primarily with the children, so attaching it to an assignment, getting children to create their own sways. And again, it's a little bit like it's a more advanced version in many ways of PowerPoint, in that it's very natural. Aesthetically, it's very smooth, and the kids can manipulate whatever way they want very quickly. Assignments is one of the most important aspects, I would say, that we have had in our journey with Teams throughout this entire crisis. So Teams has been the hub, but assignments has been one of the most effective things we've used for the parents, for the pupils to share their work with the teachers, and for the teachers to set work to the kids. So that whole process of assessment for learning, giving feedback. So the teaching, modern review, that assignments really helps you tighten in on that. So what we found at the start, whenever we had this journey, was that kids were posting their work through assignments at various different times of the day. Parents were maybe coming in from work at 5, 6 or 7 o'clock at night, posting work to the teacher through assignments, wondering when teachers were going to get back to them. So to kind of clarify all that and make things nice and neat and tidy, we set up what's called the daily learning log. And the daily learning log basically means that any child in the school or parent in the school can take a photo of their child's work, or the child can take a photo of their own work. It could be a paper, it could be something that they've written out by hand, it could be something they've done digitally, and they can return that work to the teacher privately. The teacher can give feedback privately as well and return that to the pupil. So it's very focused and very tailored, but it takes a lot of the effort out of that for the teacher. So what we have is a daily learning log. Children who post work before 1:30, the teachers are all on at 1:30, and they correct that work and return it to the kids and parents that afternoon. Anyone who posts work after 1:30, we have it set up that work will be returned and corrected the following day at 1:30. So basically, it's just a 24-hour window opens up every day at 1:30. But it means then parents will know if work, or children know if work's not shared before 1:30. Don't worry. The teachers will mark it, the teachers will look at it, it'll just be the following day. So what we did here was we had a guide explaining what it means and then how to share their work. So that's something we have found really useful, and we'll adapt it and evolve it as need be come September. This is what it looks like for the teacher. So this is a teacher's daily learning log. This is a foundation stage class, and what you can see here, I have obviously covered all the children's names and initials, but you can see here these wee boxes here. You can just click on these as a teacher, and it will expand the feedback box. So as a teacher is given individualized feedback, they can go back and review all the different bits of feedback that they have given. Now, in the foundation stage, the teacher in this example is given feedback on multiple pieces of work, and we've allowed for that through the daily learning log. And again, with Teams, it allows you to be as broad or as narrow as you need to be. With, again, I think Donna mentioned it there earlier. Think of what your endpoint is. What is your outcome that you want, and then try and think how you can use these tools to achieve that. If I use this example of this child here, or a primary 2 child, this was a picture of the work that the parent had shared. But you'll also see there are 3 other pieces of work attached. So what the teacher is basically doing is just clicking through that work. They click through it, it just comes up on the screen, and the teacher can put in their feedback there, and then that's returned to the child. The other thing I'll highlight here is the page number. So this is an example from this teacher who had the page numbers on the task, and you can see then that just makes the workflow for the teacher and for the parent and the people very simple, and takes out the stress about what you're going to be doing, because the instructions are all quite clear. Thinking then more on how this has evolved then, Up the School is much more focused feedback and forms. I am a massive fan of forms, as is Karine, and again I know could be another full session on this, but forms for me allows teachers to create, can be used in multiple ways, but for teachers they can create self-correcting assessments. This is a very simple example here of 5-a-day maths. So basically think your mental maths 5-a-day. The teacher puts in the questions, it creates multiple choice answers, they select the right one, and as the kids do it, and this teacher has a class of has a class of 35 this year, so it's a big class they have, but this goes out to them every morning, and it automatically marks the quiz as the children go through it. I've given an example here of a child who struggled, just to highlight some of the features of this. So this child, we can see, took 4 minutes 12 seconds to do it. Had 2 of the questions right, so you can see the first question there they got correct. It automatically gives them a point. If we go to the 5th question, was 2/3 is equal to what? 33%, 60%, 23%, or 66%. You can see there the teacher, when they created the form, had selected 66%. The child clicked on 33%, and the teacher has that specific feedback there in the box below. 33% equals 1/3, so 66% will equal 2/3, and that can be done automatically whenever the teacher is creating the form as well. And again, I know Donna would be the one to chat about that there in terms of training and developing that. This is what it looks like for the children. Again, another way in which this is what it looks like for the children whenever they're taking a quiz or using a form. The teacher here has used screen grabs of questions, so you can see there question 3 and 4 have pictures that accompany the questions. But for them, the teachers, when they're dealing with large classes, this goes out. They don't have to mark it, but what they do then is spend their time then focusing on the results. So what questions did they get right? What questions did they get wrong? And then they tailor the learning, tailor the teaching to address any gaps in the learning. So it's really focused, really informed teaching. I'm going to give you an example here now of a literacy comprehension activity that our primary 6 children did recently. So the teacher in this example has basically taken a comprehension which has created multiple choice answers and put it into forms. Again, because he has a large class, this goes out to the children. They will go on to Teams. If they're on a laptop, they will see it like this. If they're on a mobile, they'll get a version of this too. And you'll see here, when you're designing it, you can flip between mobile and computer to see what it's going to look like for the kids. So the children complete the comprehension activity. And for the teacher, this is an example of, again, that auto grading and auto marking. So you can see here, when the teacher, this was actually done yesterday. So the teacher has to actually still get this mark, but 35 children, you can see here in this first part of the screen, all but one had it done at the time I was having a look at this. You can see the results of how they've all got on. The test is out of 65. So when the children have all that done, the teacher can go in, give feedback using this column here. They can go into the form itself and give even more specified feedback if need be. But what's really powerful is that the teacher can go in and rank all the questions from the ones that most of the children got wrong to the least. So again, that's informing their future teaching down the line. Immersive reader, I couldn't let this pass without kind of highlighting this, because this has been a massive one in terms of our inclusion and providing support for our SEN kids, children with dyslexic tendencies. And it's an incredibly powerful tool, which is built in across teams across the board. And again, it's free, and it's been one of those things in terms of accessibility and inclusion, which has been a revelation to you throughout this journey. I'm going to refer back to that comprehension that I had up just a few moments ago. Now, most of you, if you're watching this on the phone in particular, that's going to be pretty hard to see. So if a child's sitting at home and with the best intent in the world, or a child maybe who has difficulty, who has maybe dyslexic tendencies, that's going to be a very challenging comprehension activity for them to complete. So after the teacher's gone through the text, has modelled it, has set this assessment, what's lovely about this, teams in particular, is that this little icon here, and this is the immersive reader icon. So whenever you see that symbol in any of the Teams apps, anywhere in Teams at all, that will take the text on the screen and transform it into a child-friendly, accessible version. And it just uses the power of the technology to do that, and it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a picture from a textbook, it could be something typed like this, it could be from a web page, any source, it'll convert it. So whenever the child is looking at this at home, they click immersive reader button and it changes it into something like this. You've got the yellow background, Comic Sans font is spaced out. There's a picture dictionary as well, so the children can click on a word maybe they're not entirely sure of. And as you can see here, it'll give a picture to give a clue of what the meaning of the word. This icon here, the sound, will actually read the word out for them too. The children can click and play as well, and it will read it out. They can even choose the type of voice that they have reading. They can choose the speed of voice, but needless to say, I think anyone sitting watching this will see how powerful and useful that is in terms of accessibility and inclusion for our children. And Donna, I would safely say that could be a full training session on immersive reader alone. Just to show how this works across the board in Teams, this is a screenshot I took from my iPhone, and basically you'll notice here this is from Flipgrid, which is part of the Office 365 offering. There at the bottom left hand corner, you'll see the immersive reader icon. So again, it doesn't matter whether you're using a laptop, a desktop, a mobile phone, an iPad, Android device. When you see that icon, it'll automatically change it into immersive reader mode. And that's a really, really powerful tool and really, really useful. The final example of immersive reader I have here is from this is the primary 3 class. So I had posted up about, cross-posted I should say, about the weekly assembly. So it's sitting there, the text is there for anyone who wants to access it. But if you look up in the top right hand corner of any message in Teams, you'll see these 3 little ellipses. There is an option then to click on immersive reader. And when you click on immersive reader, and I'm sure you've all guessed by now what happens, it'll switch it all over into immersive reader mode. So again, a really powerful tool that's integrated across the board. All I have found you need to do is show parents and children, just make them aware of that icon whenever they see it, and then it'll flip everything into immersive reader mode. The final thing I'm going to finish off with, folks, and thank you for, and again, thank you for sticking with us here to the end, is Insights. Insights has proved really useful to us at Galway because it gives us a really clear insight about the engagement levels. And I noticed some of the questions in the Q&A in the first presentation about what does this actually look like, how many children are actually staying on. Insights lets you see in a forensic, detailed way what the participation levels are. This is Mr. Kelly's primary 6th class, and this you can see here quite clearly what the engagement levels have been like over the past 12 weeks. So you can see here, here's March 13th. The kids started then the week after, so you can see the numbers climbing. And then you can see we have the Easter break here, but consistently then since, with a slight tail off in June, but still quite high. You're still up in the 30s there. The children have all been active. Now you'll notice here it says active users 41. There are 36 children in this class, but I'm included, and so are other members of the senior management team. So that's why that number there says 41. But that's a very clear way of seeing what children are engaged and active. Another example, I'm using the same class here to show how we use it from a pastoral point of view and a supportive point of view. And this will be really important come September if this is the way in which we're going to be proceeding with this. I can see activity over the last 7 days. So you can see this week we have 91% digital activity. That includes the weekend, so that's sometimes why it drops off a little bit like that. But we're in the second week of June. Probably naturally there's going to be a little bit of a tail off. But what's really important here is it shows me here 3 out of the 35 children in the class are not active. And this little exclamation mark will appear beside any child who is not active. So the teacher or the school leadership can then contact that parent to see what difficulties they're having, and if it's maybe a child who we know doesn't have access, that we can deal with that. It's if any new cases pop up, then we can address that. For the same class, over the whole journey of the past 12 weeks, 100% engagement by all the kids. They're also, and you can see here in quite forensic detail, even the times of day. So if you hold your icon over this in the live teams, it'll show you what time of day, but also it shows that all the kids are active. I'm going to show just one more class here, primary 4. Over the past 12 weeks, 97% digital activity engagement. This is 2 classes altogether. There's 2 teachers working on this team, but again, there's only 1 child who's not active on that team. So to finish up, over the last 12 weeks of our remote learning, some of the numbers, and again, part of this for me is good because it evaluates how we're getting on, what we need to work on. There's just below 90% daily active pupil and parent use. We have had 6,500 messages posted into channels just in the classroom team, so P1 through to P7. We've had 82.5 gigabyte of teaching and learning shared across all the class teams in the last 12 weeks. Over 400 Flipgrid videos posted by the Key Stage 2 children, and 30,000 views of those Flipgrid videos just in the last 12 weeks alone. But most importantly for me, it means the pupil, teacher, and the homeschool connection has been maintained throughout this. I wouldn't maintain that Teams is a silver bullet and it's going to solve everyone's ails throughout this crisis. The one thing I've heard Donna say at previous conferences and meetings is that whatever platform you decide, choose one. And I think that's good advice. We chose Teams, we're sticking with it, and I think that's good because for teachers, we find that the primary 1 teacher and the primary 7 teacher can have the same conversation because they're both using the same platform. How they deliver the content might be slightly different, but the same kind of technical difficulties they're encountering, it's all very simple, it's all very unified. So Donna, thanks for that. I'm going to hand back over to you.
What can I say? Absolutely. Wow. Now the same thing's happening to me again. Put my microphone off, please.
I'm going to come off there as well.
Try that again. I have 2 microphones up. I think that's what the problem is. Hold on.
I can hear you, Donna.
Are you getting feedback as well? Maybe it's just me and I'll try and ignore it. Okay.
Yeah, no feedback this end, Donna.
Perfect. This software, by the way, that we're using today is completely new to us as well. And we took a risk in using it because the numbers were so large for these webinars. So forgive me if I look as if I'm very inexperienced in this software. I am. Yesterday and today has been the first time that we've used it. But what can I say? I said, wow, I mean, 2 amazing principals, and I'm sure you're all equally as blown away as I am. But the lovely thing is, when you look at each one of those presentations, many of you may be, all of you will be feeling completely inspired, and some of you might be thinking, but we're not there, we can't do that. My suggestion to you would be to look at everything that has been talked about today, and depending on where you are in your journey, identify where do you think you could start? Where is the most crucial place that it's going to make a difference? And it's a bit like the other analogy that I will have been heard to say frequently is it's just like an elephant. And how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. The important thing is that you do have a lot of support that is available to you. So I am just going to share another couple of slides with you. Just bear with me here. I just need to bring this up. And I am going to, something else has come up there on my screen that I didn't want to. So just, this is always what happens just when you don't want it to. I don't really want to be doing a rehearsal. There's some, anyway, just ignore it. You see when it comes up, just ignore it. That's the best way because I don't want to keep you back. So I'm going to send that across live and I'm not going to rehearse. So the first question really is, and I just need to pull this back a little bit, sorry. There we go. You're probably asking yourself, where do you go next? How can you make sure that you are either Hugh or Corinne's best friends for the rest of their lives because they have so much information to share with you? Well, I would like to share with you a good next step, and that is, if you're not already in, or if you've never heard of the C2K primary team for getting to know teams, we actually have a community of primary school teachers from right across Northern Ireland who are all in the same boat. They all want to start using Teams or have already been used it. So it's a community where there's all sorts of levels of expertise. The post-primary team is extremely active. The primary team is possibly a little quieter at the moment, but I have a feeling after today's presentations that that's going to change really quickly. So that is the code that I wish to share with you. Okay, it's HC34IXZ. And if there's any of you sitting thinking, oh, what do I do with that code, or how do I find Teams, or how do I get into Teams, this is what you do here. So if I just let you see Office 365 up at the top there, you will see that as an icon in My School. Just make sure when you're using Office 365, or indeed Google for that matter, that you're always using Chrome or Edge. Never use Internet Explorer 11. It's always very slow and sluggish with cloud-based resources. So Office 365, and then when it opens up the portal, you'll see that you have an icon there for Teams. When you open up Teams, you then have the icon up in the top right that says join or create a team. And when that is selected, you see the option there where you've two icons simply. You've got either create a team or join a team with a code. And that's at that point, you would just simply join the team with a code. When you do that, you'll be straight into our primary C2K Getting to Know Teams team. And there you'll have access to Corinne, to Hugh, and many more teachers and principals who use Teams regular. So it's brilliant because, as far as I'm concerned, the best way to learn something, the analogy that I use is it's a bit like learning to drive. You can go to all the training that you want. You can be passive, as in you're wanting to absorb all of this new information to make sure that you know as much as you possibly can. But that on its own will never be enough. In fact, I would suggest the more that you learn without doing, the more you will become overwhelmed. And it makes it actually even more difficult to make that start because you start to become anxious about it. Whereas if you simply have a go, it's a bit like the driving. If you do extra practice in between the lessons, you get as far as the driving test quicker. But the real learning that's going to happen for you, of course, is once you've got your test and you get behind that wheel by yourself. But when you get behind that wheel, or to get you to the wheel in the first place, of course, you have great support through the C2K e-learning team. So we sort of have it sort of divided up among the localities. So locality 1, we have Esther Woodhouse. I cover locality 2, or locality North, and I apologise, Eamon is caught behind this. I don't really want to hit start rehearsing. Well, we will. Hopefully it'll not do too much to us. So there we have Eamon, was hidden behind that little sign there, and Eamon is covering locality 3. So we're all contactable. We deliver webinars of training. There's been an awful lot of webinars over the last number of weeks. This week's webinars were quite different because they're not training webinars, they're showcase webinars, and there will be more webinars moving forward. So please do watch out. We do email everybody to invite them to this training. We've had lots and lots of responses, but particularly on the team, the primary team, if you have any particular needs, please do reach out, because even if it's not ourselves, there's other teachers there that will help. And there are links to lots of resources and videos in there. On top of that, we have the C2K Media Library. And in the C2K Media Library, there are a series of videos enlisted and called Learning from Home. And these webinars as well are also recorded and made available on the C2K Media Library. So there's lots and lots of resources. And then, of course, there's Microsoft as well. The Microsoft Educator website, and that's the URL for it there, education.microsoft.com, is a fantastic resource of materials. Now, not only just courses about how to, the procedural aspect, but actual learning paths, and many of the resources are from a very sound pedagogic basis about how you apply these tools and resources in your classroom. So lots of ideas. And I find that it's a great place, if you're sort of looking at this from a point of view of a whole staff development, it can be a great way for encouraging staff to move forward, because you can be awarded digital badges according to the number and frequency of courses that you're carrying out. So for example, the early badge that you would get would be one called a Microsoft Innovative Educator. And then beyond that, and in fact, Hugh is already, as I am myself, Microsoft Innovative Educator Experts. And I would encourage as many teachers as possible to go down that pathway, because it's not only about the expertise that you build from doing the courses, but it's about that community, and you have that opportunity then to reach out to other people even further afield than Northern Ireland. So well worth the experience. I think you would agree with me there. And then finally, our final part of today's session, and I do apologise we've gone over time, but I think you'll agree it has been well worth it. But I'd like to take a few minutes now to look at the question and answer session. So I'm going to just come over here and have a quick look at some of the questions. And Corinne, if you would put your camera on, please, and open your mic, I will actually put you up on the screen first and move across. So Corinne, thank you so very, very much. And I know you have already been looking at some of the questions in here. And is there any particular questions that you'd like to bring out as a focus? You know, some of the questions you've been answered. Would you like to do like a quick summary?
Well, just so a few people had asked.
Just check your microphone.
Yeah. See.
You should be, oh no, you're okay. It's probably me. I had to put my sound down. Okay, can you hear Corinne okay?
I was just looking, a few people had, can you hear me okay there, Donna? All right, a few people had asked about using other apps like Seesaw. We happen to use it just because it's what we were using before lockdown, but Teams is used throughout the whole school. Now let's see. Someone was asking about how they hand in their sway, and I was just explaining it was sent by Teams. So let me see. Again, just asking questions about our own situation and where we share our sways. The sways were both for the children and for their parents as well. We're only doing sways since lockdown, so we were trying to cover a wide base there. So we were given information that was pertinent to the children and to parents as well, and we were posting them on our Twitter page and on Facebook and on our website as well. And we are also interacting in other ways on those platforms too.
That's great. Thank you so much, Corinne. That's been really, really helpful. I know you've been working away in the background answering a lot of the questions. Now, thanks also to Hugh for another wonderful presentation. It's amazing the amount of work, and people will say, so Teams is just for staff then? You know, you can have staff meetings with it, or you can share a policy. I think after today, everybody will be in no doubt that Teams is much, much more than simply for staff to share. So lots of resources there. Hugh, just to give you fair warning, I'm going to bring you up on the screen now as well. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at some of the questions that have come in there. By the way, folks, I don't intend to keep you here to answer every single question one by one, because there's a lot's come in. What I do intend to do, however, though, is we have answered a number of them and we will keep doing so, but we'll also move them over into the primary C2K team. So if you would use that code to join, okay, the team, and you'll find that because this recording is going to be in the media library, the C2K media library, you'll be able to pick up the presentation, have a look at it again. I'm going to make an announcement and add the code in here again in case anybody missed it, but we will pick that up again. So Hugh, over to you.
Donna,
what's your thoughts?
Thank you. Yeah, listen, it's lovely to hear all the positive feedback. A couple of questions that I just want to pick out. So there was a question about providing children with devices, and I think that's going to be a common challenge, you know, for Korean school and for a lot of schools out there. Our way around that was that, and the beauty of Teams, it doesn't matter what device you have. And again, it's easy route of access, and for us, that's what it was about, getting kids and parents on as quickly and easy as possible. We did loan out some of our devices. We have 231 children in the school. I put a survey out at the very start through forums, as Karine has been doing as well, and I had 6 parents who requested for a device, so that was more than manageable for us. Now that's completely aside from what the department is doing, so that probably will increase maybe come September, but you know, out of 231 kids, there was only 6 requests, so you know, there may be a fear. You may think if you put that question out there to parents, you could be overwhelmed. We didn't find that to be the case. The other thing, a few questions about that policy. Anyone who maybe wants to have a chat about that policy or a copy of it, if you can email me at the address that was up at the start. And Donna, maybe if you want to share that as well after here, listen, I'd be happy to respond to that in kind. But listen, the one thing I would add about this here too is that it always comes back to the same old adage, Donna, and Karine, and everyone will know too well. Technology is just a tool, and what I'm showcasing the hard work of the staff of St. Joseph's, and the staff of St. Joseph's have simply embraced this whole process. And you could have you could have all the technology in the world, you could have Team, Flipgrid, whatever else. He says, but it's the teacher who makes the magic happen. And you know, it's that same old saying, 40 iPads in the classroom is never going to replace a teacher, because a teacher provides that moment of inspiration or motivation or magic. So yeah, I think it's, and the other thing I think you mentioned at the start there, Karine and Donna, was thinking about your endpoint. What is it you want to achieve? And so sometimes you have to think backwards through that. Okay, what are the kind of things we have to navigate? So, but no, thank you, Donna, and thanks, Karine, too, and thanks for everyone for tuning in. Hope everyone found it useful. Question-wise, I think that covers everything, Donna.
Yes, and thanks so much for that, Hugh. I know there's a lot of thanking going on here, but just on behalf of everybody that has joined and listened to the both of you, our sincere thanks, and most importantly, thanks to those who did take time out of today to have a listen to our webinar. So next steps, I'm suggesting that you join the team, get involved in the community, because we are much better together, is what I would always say. And if you're looking for training, we have currently a number of training webinars taking place. They're possibly all booked up because the applications were previous to this, but those same webinars will be repeated in the autumn term. But once again, as I suggest, the team is a great place just to reach out. If there's any other kind of training or support or webinars that we can offer, we certainly will. But the best place is to start with yourselves, rather than just trying to pick out different pieces of training and get trained first. I think the training is part of a process. You need to have those conversations as well in school about what it is you want to do, so that you can apply the training in a purposeful manner within your own school. So folks, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye now.